The quiet of space was broken by the soft beeping of sensors. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morgan looked up from her control panel. Something was out there. The small exploration vessel Pathfinder had been traveling for 3 weeks now, testing Earth's first faster-than-light drive in real conditions. "Computer, what am I looking at?" Lisa asked, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "Unknown object approaching at high velocity," the computer responded in its calm voice. "Size suggests a vessel larger than any in Earth's database." Lisa's heart raced. First contact. This wasn't supposed to happen on a simple test mission. She was a pilot, not a diplomat. "Send standard greeting package on all frequencies," she ordered, following the protocol that had been drilled into all deep space pilots, even though nobody really expected to use it. 70,000 light-years away, on the bridge of the Imperial cruiser Dominance, Admiral Zorek of the Zolarian Empire stared at the tiny blip on his screen with contempt. "What primitive species dares enter our outer territories?" he growled, his scaled skin shifting from blue to a reddish hue, indicating mild irritation. "Unknown, sir," his second-in-command replied. "The vessel appears to be using an extremely inefficient form of faster-than-light travel. Our sensors detect only one life form aboard." Zorek laughed, a harsh sound that made junior officers flinch. "A single creature in a primitive ship? Hardly worth our time. Still, protocol demands we greet all new species appropriately. Send the standard warning shots across their bow. Let them know who rules this galaxy." Back on the Pathfinder, Lisa's console erupted with warnings. Energy readings were spiking all around her ship. Then she saw it through the viewport, a massive vessel, at least 20 times the size of her small craft, with strange glowing symbols along its hull. "This is Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morgan of Earth Vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace," she broadcast, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The response came in the form of bright energy blasts that seared through space just meters from her ship. "Warning shots," Lisa muttered. Great first impression. Her military training kicked in. Though the Pathfinder was primarily a research vessel, it had been built by the military. Lisa had been chosen for this mission not just for her scientific knowledge, but for her skills as a combat pilot. She pushed the ship into a tight spiral, avoiding the next volley of shots with a precision that surprised even her. The experimental engines responded beautifully, making maneuvers possible that no human ship had ever attempted before. On the Dominance, Admiral Zorek watched with growing concern as the tiny Earth ship dodged his warning blasts with surprising skill. "Impossible," he hissed. "No primitive species should have reflexes that fast." He turned to his weapons officer. "Disable that vessel immediately. I want to examine this creature and its technology." The Zolarian Empire had ruled most of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had encountered hundreds of species, most of which quickly surrendered and became loyal subjects. Those who resisted were crushed. None had ever surprised them like this. Lisa saw the larger blast coming. These weren't warnings, they were trying to disable her. The Pathfinder shuddered as a glancing hit struck its rear section. "Damage report," she called out. "Minimal damage to outer hull. Defense systems online." The computer replied. "Defense systems." The words triggered a memory from her mission briefing. The Pathfinder carried experimental technology, untested in actual combat. It was supposed to be a last resort. Well, this qualified as a last resort. Lisa's fingers flew over the controls, activating the defense matrix. The ship hummed with energy as strange symbols flashed across her screen, symbols the engineers back home had only partially understood. "Target locked," the computer announced. "Defense system ready." Lisa hesitated. She didn't want to attack. This was supposed to be a peaceful mission. But 3 more blasts rocked her ship and warning lights flashed across her console. "Activate defense system," she ordered. What happened next would change the course of human history forever. A pulse of energy unlike anything ever seen by human or Zolarian eyes erupted from the small Earth vessel. It wasn't a conventional weapon. It was something else entirely. The energy spread in concentric rings, warping the very fabric of space-time around it. Admiral Zorek watched in horror as 3 of his escort ships simply folded in on themselves, crushed by forces his scientists couldn't even identify. "All ships, retreat," he bellowed, his skin now fully red with rage and fear. "Send word to the High Council. We have encountered a new species with technology beyond our understanding." Lisa stared at her view screen in shock. The alien ships were gone, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but crushed into impossibly small points of light that quickly faded from view. Only the largest ship remained, rapidly moving away from her position. "What just happened?" she whispered, though there was no one to answer. Her hands trembled as she set a course back to Earth. The mission parameters had changed. Testing the FTL drive was no longer important. Humanity needed to know they weren't alone in the universe, and that their first contact had just turned into their first interstellar conflict. As the Pathfinder accelerated toward home, Lisa didn't notice the small warning light indicating that the ship's black box was transmitting all sensor data back to Earth. Standard procedure for test flights, but now it carried information far more valuable than engine performance metrics. In a secure room deep beneath the Pentagon, Admiral John Hayes watched the transmission with growing concern. Beside him, General Maria Rios of the Space Force cursed under her breath. "Tell me that's not what I think it is," Hayes said quietly. "It's exactly what you think it is," Rios replied. "First contact and they shot at us." Hayes nodded slowly, his weathered face grim. "And we apparently just destroyed 3 of their ships with technology we barely understand." "Morgan doesn't even realize what she's done," Rios added. "That defense system was theoretical. The engineers said it would take years to perfect." Hayes picked up a secure phone. "Get me the president, now." He paused, looking back at the screen showing the Pathfinder's journey home. "And issue a level 1 recall for all military personnel. As of this moment, Earth is at war." As Lisa Morgan pushed her ship to its limits, racing back to the safety of Earth, she couldn't know that she'd just become the first human to engage in interstellar combat. She couldn't know that the strange alien vessel was already sending messages to a vast empire that had conquered most of the galaxy. She couldn't know that her actions had just painted a target on her homeworld. All she knew was that she needed to get home and warn everyone, "We are not alone and they are not friendly." Lisa Morgan stood before a mirror in her new uniform, still adjusting to the captain's bars on her shoulders. 2 weeks had passed since her return to Earth, and everything had changed. The world's governments had united against the alien threat. The public had been told a partial truth, that contact had been made with an alien civilization, and that Earth needed to prepare for possible conflict. "Captain Morgan, they're ready for you," said a young officer at her door. Lisa nodded and followed him through the underground military complex. The facility had been built in just 10 days, a testament to how seriously Earth was taking the threat. Engineers worked around the clock, studying the defense system that had saved her life and destroyed 3 alien ships. The war room was packed with military officers and scientists when Lisa entered. Admiral Hayes nodded to her as she took her seat. "We've detected multiple objects entering the solar system," he announced without preamble. "Based on their configuration and speed, we believe it's an alien fleet. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 6 hours. The room fell silent. "How many ships?" asked Fleet Commander Greg Summers, a veteran naval officer who had been chosen to lead Earth's hastily assembled defense force. 200 at least, Hayes replied grimly. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Earth had managed to convert and arm just 50 vessels in the past 2 weeks. They were outnumbered 4-1. "What about the defense system from my ship?" she asked. "Have we managed to reproduce it?" Daniel Carter, now head of military research and development, cleared his throat. "We've installed smaller versions on 20 of our ships, but we still don't fully understand how it works or how to control its power." "It's better than nothing," Summers said firmly. "We need a plan of attack. We can't just wait for them to reach Earth." Hayes pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. "We'll meet them at Mars orbit. Use the planet for cover and strike in waves. Captain Morgan will lead Strike Team Alpha, the ship's equipped with the new defense system." Lisa's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm a test pilot, not a combat commander." You're the only person who's ever used this technology against the enemy, Hayes replied. We need you out there. As the meeting continued, across the solar system, Grand Admiral Zorek surveyed his battle fleet with pride. 200 warships, including 5 dreadnoughts, moved in perfect formation toward the third planet from the yellow star. Status report, he commanded. All ships at battle readiness, his second-in-command reported. We've detected primitive vessels gathering near the fourth planet. They appear to be preparing for defense. Zorek laughed. How quaint. They think they can stop us with a handful of ships. He turned to his communications officer. Send the standard surrender demand. Offer them the chance to become a vassal. State of the Zalarian Empire. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, our intelligence suggests this species may be more dangerous than they appear. The scout ship destroyed 3 of our cruisers. A lucky strike against unprepared vessels. Zorek dismissed the concern. We are the 7th battle fleet of the Zalarian Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. These humans will learn their place. Back on the flagship Defiance, Lisa checked her ship's systems one final time. The newly installed defense system hummed quietly, its controls now better integrated into the ship's computer. Strike Team Alpha, report in, she called over the communication system. One by one, the 19 other ships in her command acknowledged they were ready. Most were converted research vessels like the Pathfinder, crewed by scientists and Test E. Pilots rather than soldiers. But they were Earth's best hope. Fleet Commander Summers' voice came over the general channel. All ships, this is your commander. In a few minutes, we will engage in humanity's first interstellar battle. The odds are against us, but we have advantages they don't know about. We've studied the footage from Captain Morgan's encounter. These aliens rely on conventional energy weapons and standard tactics. They don't expect us to be able to fight back effectively. He paused for effect. Prove them wrong, for Earth. For Earth, Lisa whispered, echoing the sentiment that rippled through the fleet. The Zalarian ships appeared on the horizon of Mars, their massive forms blocking out the stars. Lisa had never seen anything so terrifying or beautiful. Hundreds of alien vessels moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with strange symbols. Strike Team Alpha, move into position, she ordered, guiding her ship behind one of Mars's smaller moons for cover. The alien message came through on all frequencies, translated by Earth's computers. Attention, human vessels. This is Grand Admiral Zorek of the Zalarian Empire. Your species has attacked Imperial ships without provocation. Surrender immediately and submit to Imperial rule, or be destroyed. Fleet Commander Summers responded simply. We choose option 3. We fight. The battle began with a massive volley from the alien fleet. Energy weapons lanced through space toward the human ships, but the Earth vessels were already moving, using maneuvers that confused the Zalarian targeting systems. Strike Team Alpha, execute Maneuver Theta, Lisa called. Her 20 ships broke from cover, accelerating directly toward the center of the alien formation. It was a suicidal move by conventional wisdom, charging directly at a superior force. But Lisa had studied the Zalarian ships and noticed a pattern in their defense systems. There was a gap in their coverage, a blind spot that appeared when multiple ships coordinated their shields. Activate defense systems on my mark, she ordered, watching as her squadron closed the distance. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 20. Gravity distortion fields activated simultaneously, creating a ripple effect that tore through the alien formation. 7 Zalarian ships imploded instantly, crushed by forces they couldn't comprehend. On the bridge of his flagship, Grand Admiral Zorek watched in shock as the human vessels tore through his carefully arranged formation. Impossible, he roared. Target those small vessels immediately. All ships concentrate fire. But the human ships were already breaking off, executing a complex series of maneuvers that scattered the Zalarian formation. Earth's remaining 30 ships joined the attack, targeting the confusion at the heart of the alien fleet. Lisa's ship shuddered as a glancing blow struck its shields. Damage report, she called. Shields at 60%, her second-in-command reported. But the defense system is still operational. Lisa noticed a smaller Zalarian vessel separated from the main fleet. A scout ship, perfect for her next plan. Strike. Team Beta, cover me, she ordered. I'm going after that scout ship. Her vessel accelerated toward the target. This was the riskiest part of the plan Hayes had developed, capturing an alien ship intact for study. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. Target their engines only. A precise shot disabled the Zalarian scouts' propulsion systems. Before they could recover, Lisa's ship locked onto their hull, and Earth's first space marines cut their way inside. Theo. Battle raged for another hour with losses on both sides. The humans fought with desperate creativity, using Mars gravity to slingshot their ships into unexpected attacks. The Zalarians responded with brute force, destroying 15 Earth vessels. But it wasn't enough. Grand Admiral Zorek watched in growing horror as his fleet's formation collapsed under the human assault. These primitives weren't fighting like any species he'd encountered before. They were taking risks no sane commander would consider, executing maneuvers that sacrificed ships to gain tactical advantages. Order a withdrawal, he finally commanded, his scales pale with shock. Regroup at the system's edge. His officers stared at him in disbelief. The 7th Battle Fleet had never retreated before. Do it now, Zorek shouted. We need to reassess this enemy. They are not what we expected. As the Zalarian ships began to withdraw, a cheer went up across the human fleet. They had survived the first battle. More importantly, they had won. Lisa's boarding team reported success. They had captured not only the scout ship but also several Zalarian crew members, including an officer named Lieutenant Vex. As Lisa guided her damaged ship back toward Earth, she allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they had found humanity, adaptable, unpredictable, and unwilling to surrender. The real war was just beginning. The golden halls of the Zalarian High Council echoed with angry voices. Emperor Krell, his scales shimmering with a deep purple of royal authority, sat on his raised platform watching his advisors argue. The news of the patrol fleet's defeat had spread quickly. This is unprecedented, shouted General Voss, slamming his clawed hand on the table. 3 warships destroyed by a single primitive vessel. Thelrix, the Emperor's chief advisor, moved forward with the fluid grace typical of the elder Zalarians. His scales had faded to a pale blue with age, but his eyes remained sharp. We must respond with overwhelming force, Thelrix said calmly. The Empire has maintained its rule for 10,000 years by crushing any resistance immediately. Emperor Krell nodded slowly. Prepare the 7th Battle Fleet. I want this species identified and subdued before the news spreads to our vassal worlds. Far away on Earth, a very different meeting was taking place. Admiral John Hayes stood before President Allison Campbell in the White House Situation Room. The room was packed with military leaders and government officials, all watching the footage from the Pathfinder's encounter for the 20th time. Play it again, President Campbell ordered, her eyes never leaving the screen. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and the stern expression of someone who had spent her career making difficult decisions. The video showed the alien ships firing on Lisa Morgan's vessel, then the strange energy pulse that crushed 3 enemy ships. And we have no idea how Morgan activated this weapon, the president asked. We're still analyzing the data, Hayes replied. The defense system was experimental. It was installed on the Pathfinder as a prototype, but no one expected it to be tested in combat. Chief Engineer Daniel Carter spoke up from his seat at the table. He was a young man with dark skin and tired eyes that showed he hadn't slept since the news broke. The system uses principles we barely understand, Carter explained. It creates a localized distortion in spacetime. We adapted it from theoretical research. Frankly, we're lucky the Pathfinder wasn't destroyed too. President Campbell turned to the room. Options people, how do we prepare for retaliation? Patricia Wells, the director of NASA, stood up. She was a practical woman who had spent her career launching satellites and space telescopes, not preparing for alien invasions. We have 14 spacecraft that could be converted for military use, she said. The Pathfinder was our most advanced. but we have others in production. If we divert all resources, we might have 50 ships ready within 3 months. We don't have 3 months, General Keith Howard said grimly. If these aliens can travel between stars easily, they could be here within days. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Then we prepare as best we can, the president said firmly. As of this moment, I am declaring a state of emergency. All space-related industries are now under government control. Director Wells, you will oversee the immediate conversion of our space fleet for defense. General Howard, prepare our conventional forces. We may need them if these aliens attempt a ground invasion. She turned to Admiral Hayes. John, you'll be in charge of our overall defense strategy. Work with Carter to understand this weapon and see if we can replicate it. Hayes nodded. What about Lieutenant Commander Morgan? Her ship will be reaching Earth orbit within hours. Bring her in quietly, the president ordered. I want to speak with her personally, and I don't want to cause a panic. The public isn't ready to learn about this yet. As the meeting broke up, Hayes pulled Carter aside. Tell me honestly, can we win this? Carter hesitated. The technology that destroyed those ships, we don't understand how Morgan activated it. It wasn't supposed to be operational, but you designed it, Hayes pressed. Based on theoretical physics, yes. The math suggested it was possible to create a temporary gravity well that could be used defensively, but we never expected such devastating results. Carter ran a hand through his short hair. If we can reverse engineer what happened and reproduce it, maybe we have a chance. Across the solar system, Lisa Morgan was guiding the Pathfinder home, unaware of the crisis her encounter had triggered. Her hands shook slightly as she adjusted the ship's course. The image of those alien vessels imploding kept playing in her mind. Computer, estimated time to Earth orbit, 4 hours, 17 minutes at current velocity, the computer responded. Lisa took a deep breath. She had trained for space emergencies, equipment failures, even medical crises. But first contact with a hostile alien species? That wasn't in any manual. Her communication system chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from Earth. The face of Admiral Hayes appeared on her screen. Lieutenant Commander Morgan, good to see you're all right. Admiral, Lisa said, straightening in her seat. I need to report. I know, Lisa, Hayes interrupted. We've been receiving your black box transmission. We've seen everything, Lisa. Felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They knew. She wasn't alone with this burden anymore. Sir, they fired on me without provocation. I had no choice but to activate the defense system. You did exactly what you had to do, Hayes assured her. But we need you to come in quietly. No standard docking procedures. You'll be met by a special team that will bring you directly to Washington. Lisa nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. What about the aliens? Do you think they'll come after us? Hayes's face remained impassive, but Lisa could see the concern in his eyes. We're preparing for that possibility. Just get home safely, Morgan, that's an order. As the transmission ended, Lisa stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien empire now knew about Earth. And she had given them reason to be afraid, or angry. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Grand Admiral Zorek stood before a holographic projection of Emperor Krell. His scales had turned a pale yellow, the color of shame. You allowed a primitive vessel to destroy 3 of our ships? The Emperor hissed. The technology they used was unlike anything we've encountered, Zorek replied. It wasn't conventional weapons. It was as if they could manipulate gravity itself. I don't want excuses, Admiral. I want results. The 7th Battle Fleet is being placed under your command. Find this species' homeworld and show them the full might of the Zilarian Empire. Zorek bowed his head. It will be done, my Emperor. This species will learn what happens to those who challenge us. But as the transmission ended, Zorek felt something unfamiliar, a flicker of doubt. In 10,000 years of Imperial history, no species had ever destroyed Zilarian ships so easily. What other surprises did these humans have waiting? News of the defeat spread quickly through the Zilarian Empire. For the first time in thousands of years, an Imperial fleet had retreated from battle. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. On 17 vassal worlds, long suppressed resistance, movements took to the streets, emboldened by the knowledge that the Empire was not invincible after all. Emperor Krell sat on his throne, listening to reports from across his domain. His scales had turned a deep red, the color of imperial rage. The humans must be crushed immediately, he declared to his advisors. Prepare the main imperial fleet. I want every available warship mobilized. Thelrix, the Emperor's chief advisor, stepped forward cautiously. My Emperor, perhaps we should learn more about these humans before committing our full forces. I have been researching them since the first encounter. What have you found? Krell demanded. Thelrix activated a holographic display. The humans are a young species only recently capable of space travel, but their development has been unusual. Most species take thousands of years to advance from primitive technologies to spaceflight. The humans did it in less than 300 years. The Emperor frowned. How is this possible? They adapt quickly, Thelrix explained. Their short lifespans seem to accelerate their innovation. They build on each generation's knowledge at a rate we've never seen before. He hesitated. And there's something else. The technology they used against our ships. It resembles an ancient weapon described in the Forbidden Archives. A hush fell over the throne room. The Forbidden Archives contained knowledge from before the Empire, technologies deemed too dangerous to study. You believe they've independently developed weapons from the pre-imperial age? Krell asked, his voice quieter now. I believe they may have stumbled upon principles similar to those used by the precursors, Thelrix replied. If so, they are more dangerous than their numbers would suggest. On Earth, Captain Lisa Morgan stood in a secure lab, watching as engineers studied the captured Zalarian scout ship. The alien vessel was unlike anything humans had built, its hull made of materials that seemed to shift and adapt, its engine, using principles that defied conventional physics. What have we learned? She asked Daniel Carter, who had been leading the research team. Their technology is advanced, but not incomprehensible, Carter replied. The principles are similar to ours, just developed over a much longer period. Their computers are actually less sophisticated than ours in some ways. They've relied on biological components that we abandoned decades ago. Lisa nodded. And the prisoner? Lieutenant Vex has been cooperative in his way, Carter said. He seems almost curious about us. He's given us valuable information about the Empire's structure and history. In the secured section of the facility, Lieutenant Vex sat in comfortable quarters that were nevertheless a prison. He was a young Zalarian by their standards, only 90 years old, with scales that shifted between green and blue depending on his mood. Admiral Hayes entered the room, followed by Lisa. The Zalarian looked up at them with large, pupilless eyes. You wish to ask more questions, Vex stated. It wasn't a question. We want to understand why your Empire attacked us, Hayes replied. We had no hostile intentions. Vex made a gesture that Lisa had learned was the Zalarian equivalent of a shrug. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years by crushing any potential threat immediately. You were unknown. That made you dangerous. And now? Lisa asked. Now, you are known and you are more dangerous, Vex replied. The Empire will not stop. Grand Admiral Zorek's defeat will only bring a larger force. The Emperor cannot allow any challenge to Zalarian supremacy. Hayes exchanged a glance with Lisa. How large is the Imperial fleet? 10,000 warships, Vex said simply. 50 times what you faced before. The Admiral managed to keep his expression neutral, but Lisa felt her heart sink. Earth had lost 15 ships defeating a fleet of 200. They couldn't hope to stand against 10,000. There is something else you should know, Vex added, his scales shifting to a deeper blue. Your victory has inspired rebellion in some vassal worlds. Species that have been subjugated for centuries are watching Earth closely. This was unexpected news. Hayes leaned forward. Are you saying we might have allies? Potential allies, Vex corrected. If they believe you can win. The Empire has many enemies, but few with the courage to fight openly. Later that day in the White House Situation Room, President Campbell listened as Hayes relayed what they had learned. 10,000 ships, she repeated. We can't match that. Not even if we converted every satellite and space station we have. No, Hayes agreed. But we may not need to. According to Vex, news of our victory is spreading. Other species are watching. If we can convince them we're strong enough to challenge the Empire successfully, they might join us. And how do we do that? The president asked. We barely survived the first battle. Lisa, who had been invited to the meeting, spoke up. We make them think we're stronger than we are. All eyes turned to her. The Zalarians believe the Pathfinder was a scout ship, she explained. They don't know it was just a test vessel. What if we let them believe that our full fleet is still coming? That what they faced was just our advance force? Hayes slowly nodded, understanding dawning on his face. A bluff. The biggest bluff in human history, Lisa agreed. We doctor some footage, create images of a massive human armada, then we send a message to the Zalarian capital. Claiming what exactly, the president asked. That they have seriously underestimated us, Hayes replied, warming to the idea. That the ships they faced were just a small scouting party, and that our main fleet is preparing to launch. Will they believe it? General Howard asked skeptically. They might, Lisa said, especially if we can make them think we have allies among their vassal worlds. President Campbell was silent for a long moment, considering the options. It's a desperate plan, she finally said, but it's better than waiting to be destroyed. Do it. Create your fake fleet and send your message. Meanwhile, we'll continue building real ships as fast as we can, just in case the bluff doesn't work. The next day, Earth received an unexpected message. A small vessel had entered the solar system, broadcasting on frequencies the humans had never used. Its crew identified themselves as representatives of the Novan Cooperative, a coalition of species that had secretly maintained independence from the Zalarian Empire. Fleet Commander Summers met with the aliens, slender blue-skinned beings called Novari, in a secure facility. We have watched your battle with the Imperial fleet, the Novari ambassador said. You fought with courage and skill that impressed us. We have come to offer assistance. What kind of assistance? Summers asked cautiously. Technology, information, and potentially military support, the ambassador replied. The cooperative has existed in hiding for centuries, waiting for a chance to challenge the Empire. Your victory may be that chance. News of the Novari arrival spread quickly through Earth's leadership. Suddenly, the desperate bluff they were planning seemed less impossible. With alien allies, Earth might have a genuine chance against the Empire. In the communications center of the Pentagon, Lisa Morgan recorded the message that would be sent to the Zalarian capital. Behind her stood Admiral Hayes and representatives from the Novari Cooperative. Grand Admiral Zorik, she began, her voice confident. You seem to have misunderstood our first encounter. The ship you initially attacked, the one that destroyed 3 of your vessels, was a simple scout, sent to explore this region of space. The fleet you faced at Mars was merely our forward defensive line. She paused, letting the words sink in. The main human armada has not yet been deployed. But, make no mistake, it is ready. We have watched your empire for some time, gathering allies among the worlds you've oppressed. We had hoped for peaceful contact, but you chose war. As she spoke, carefully crafted images appeared beside her. Hundreds of Earth vessels, far more advanced than anything they actually possessed, along with ships from the Novari Cooperative and other supposedly allied species. This is your only warning, Lisa concluded. Withdraw from our space and acknowledge our independence, or face the full might of humanity and its allies. The message was sent, traveling faster than light through technology the Novari had provided. In the silence that followed, Lisa exchanged glances with Hayes. Do you think they'll believe it? She asked quietly. I don't know, Hayes admitted. But if they don't, we've lost nothing. We're already preparing for the worst. Across the stars, in the grand palace of the Zalarian Empire, Emperor Krell received the human message with growing alarm. The images of the supposed human fleet were disturbing, but more concerning were the Novari ships, visible in the background. Crow, Novari still exist? He demanded, turning to Thelrix. You told me they were extinct? We believe they were, Thelrix replied, his scales pale with shock. The Imperial fleet destroyed their homeworld centuries ago. The Emperor stared at the message again, his mind racing. If the humans had already made contact with the Novari and other resistance groups, the situation was far worse than he had imagined. Could this be true? He asked. Could our scouts have encountered merely the advance forces of a larger human fleet? 3 days passed with no response from the Zolarian Empire. On Earth, preparations continued. Factories worked around the clock, converting every available resource to ship production. The Novari shared technology that accelerated Earth's progress, allowing improvements that would have taken decades to develop independently. Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her new command, the Defiance II. The ship was larger than her previous vessel, incorporating both human ingenuity and Novari technology. A small team of elite pilots and Marines had been assembled under her command for a mission so secret that even most of Earth's military leadership didn't know the details. Admiral Hayes entered the bridge, nodding to the crew before approaching Lisa. Any word from the Empire? She asked quietly. Nothing official, Hayes replied. But our long-range sensors detect increased activity at their forward bases. They're gathering their forces. Lisa took a deep breath. Then our bluff didn't work. We don't know that yet, Hayes said. Intelligence from the Novari suggests there's debate within the Imperial leadership. Some believe our claims, others don't. So our mission is even more important now. Hayes nodded gravely. Operation Shadow Strike has been approved by the President. You leave in 6 hours. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. While Earth's main forces prepared for defense, Lisa would lead a small stealth team deep into Zolarian territory. Using technology provided by the Novari, they would create the illusion of multiple human fleets attacking key Imperial installations simultaneously. It was a desperate gamble. If they succeeded, they might convince the Empire that Earth's threats were real. If they failed, they would likely die far from home, and Earth would face the Empire's wrath alone. Later that day, as Lisa prepared her team for departure, she received an unexpected visitor. Lieutenant Vex, the captured Zolarian officer, was escorted to her quarters under heavy guard. You asked to see me, Lisa said, surprised. Vex's scales shifted from blue to a pale green, a color Lisa had learned indicated sincerity among his species. I have been monitoring your preparations, Vex said. Your species intends to continue fighting against impossible odds. We tend to do that, Lisa replied with a slight smile. It is admirable, if foolish, Vex admitted. I have made a decision. I wish to assist you in your mission to Imperial space. Lisa stared at him in shock. You would betray your empire? The Empire has ruled through fear for too long, Vex said quietly. Many of us in the younger generations have questioned this. Your resistance has inspired consideration of alternatives. Lisa studied him carefully. What exactly are you offering? Knowledge, access codes, understanding of Imperial tactics, and installations that the Novari cannot provide. I served on multiple Imperial bases before my capture. It could be a trap, Lisa knew, but the potential value was too great to ignore. After consulting with Hayes and the President, the decision was made to include Vex in the mission under close supervision. As the Defiance II prepared for departure, President Campbell addressed the United Nations of Earth. For the first time, she revealed the full truth to the public, the hostile alien empire, the battles already fought, and the likelihood of more to come. We face the greatest challenge in human history, she declared, but we do not face it alone. Already other species have joined our cause, recognizing in humanity a spirit that refuses to bow to tyranny. Whether we prevail through diplomacy or battle, know this: Earth will remain free. The response was not panic, as many had feared, but a surge of unity and determination. Nations that had been enemies for generations now worked together, pooling resources and knowledge for the common defense. Deep in Imperial space, Grand Admiral Zorik stood before Emperor Krell and the full Imperial Council. The debate had raged for days about how to respond to the human threat. These claims about a larger human fleet must be lies, Zorik insisted. Our intelligence suggests they are a young species, newly emerged from their planet. They cannot possibly have the forces they claim. Yet they defeated your fleet, the Emperor pointed out coldly. And they have somehow contacted the Novari, whom we believed extinct. Thelric stepped forward, his aged scales now a deep purple rarely seen among Zolarians, the color of profound worry. My research into human history has revealed disturbing patterns, he said. They advance technologically at rates unheard of among other species. Their recorded history shows that they frequently achieve what they themselves believed impossible just years earlier. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's rapid technological progress, from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century, from basic computing to artificial intelligence in mere decades. If they have indeed been observing our empire secretly, as they claim. You believe their threats could be genuine? The Emperor asked. I believe we cannot afford to assume they are lying, Thelrix replied carefully. The risk is too great. The debate might have continued indefinitely had alarms not suddenly blared throughout the Imperial Palace. A junior officer rushed into the chamber, his scales pale with fear. Multiple attacks reported across Imperial space, he gasped. Human fleets have been detected in 7 different sectors simultaneously. The council erupted in chaos. Zorik stared at the tactical display in disbelief as reports flooded in. Imperial installations under attack, human ships appearing and disappearing from sensors, communications networks disrupted across vast regions of space. Impossible, he whispered. They cannot have such forces. But the evidence seemed undeniable. Sensor readings showed human ships matching those from the warning message, appearing near crucial Imperial facilities, launching precise strikes before vanishing again. What the Imperial leaders couldn't know was that most of these attacks weren't real. Deep in Zolarian space, the Defiance II moved silently from target to target. Using technology that combined Novari stealth systems with human creativity, Lisa's team created phantom fleet signatures that Imperial sensors couldn't distinguish from real ships. At each location, they deployed small, autonomous drones that generated the energy signatures of much larger vessels. Then actual strikes, precise and damaging but far from devastating, were carried out against communications arrays and sensor platforms. The result was confusion on a galactic scale. With their ability to coordinate compromised Imperial forces, couldn't determine which attacks were significant and which were diversions. Reports became increasingly frantic and contradictory. Vex proved invaluable, providing access codes that allowed Lisa's team to penetrate Imperial defense networks and plant false information suggesting human forces were far larger and more widespread than reality. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Krell watched his domain seem to crumble around him. Reports of uprisings came from 27 vassal worlds. 3 sector governors had already declared independence, believing the Empire could no longer protect them from the human threat. This cannot be happening, Zorik insisted, his scales now almost white with shock. One primitive species cannot challenge 10,000 years of Imperial rule. But the evidence before them suggested otherwise. Their sensors showed human fleets approaching from multiple vectors. Their communications were compromised. Their vassal worlds were in rebellion. Thelrix approached the Emperor's throne and spoke quietly. My Emperor, we must consider the possibility that we have gravely underestimated this species. If these attacks are merely the